Howdy folks, how's everybody doing today? Happy Monday. Yeah, we're gonna do Open JavaFX, that's right. Hey Crow, good to see you my friend. Alrighty, hope you got your coffee. Let's see. Alright, there we go. So, we have made it through all of the topics except for one. And welcome to April. So we're going to get into chapter 17, getting started with JavaFX. We're going to do it actually a little bit different than what's in the book, so don't worry too much about it. But we'll get into their stuff as well. So we've got 3 weeks for this and the final project work time, and then in May, because that's how things worked out with the Monday class, because we were off for MLK Day, we'll do our final project presentations. Sorry this says in person. I did not update that to us being fully remote. So just on Zoom, where you folks have a chance to chat finally. Yeah, we can do more practice with files too, for sure. So today's going to be a little bit long. So there's doing it with Netbeans is one way, and doing it with IntelliJ is a little bit different. They both work great, but it just takes a couple steps. So if you haven't yet, up here in the list of downloads, there's the Open JFX we're going to need now. So go to the Open JFX link here, and we'll go download this one. So the important thing here is we get the matching version. So if you have the OpenJDK like 17, we need to get the OpenJFX 17. So let me grab my folder here. Oh, you can't see that screen. Just one second. So like I put mine in the JDK 17.0.1 in this OpenDev folder. So I'm going to go download that same matching version. So the 17.02 will probably be okay, but we can get other versions here too if we need to. So in your download list, don't get 18 if you don't have the JDK 18. Yeah, maybe later tonight we could do that. So you want 17, or if you go to any versions, you can find the 17. I thought we could find the 1. Maybe not. Maybe we just find the 2. But that's fine. I'll find the. We can do the 17. Oh yeah, older versions. Here we go. So include older versions. You can find the 17.0.1. I think should be able to. 17.0.1. There it is. So it's older. We should be perfectly fine with it. For the things we're doing, it'll be okay. It's a small pain to go and update the JDK version. It's not too big of a deal, so you'll update both you can, but you'll be okay here. Yeah, math class on this. Get all your classes on the same day. It'll be easier then. If you were coming to campus, it would save some driving, so that part makes sense. But it is rough stacking up classes on the same day. Okay, so you just download it. It's just a zip file. So you want the SDK for it, not this JMods thing. So you get the SDK version here. It's just a zip file that you can download, and then you'll just unzip it to the same OpenDev folder. So once you've got matching versions here, you should be in pretty good shape. The other thing you're going to need to download is Scenebuilder. So this link for Scenebuilder here, you can download Scenebuilder. This one's a free tool, and you can go install it. Excuse me. Whew. So, and this version is okay. It'll work with 11 and higher. You don't need to go specifically go get Scenebuilder 17. So get the Scenebuilder tool so we can do drag and drop application development. It's really fun. So this is much nicer. You can check the older options here. Include older versions here. There's a little checkbox for it. And then you can find it. I can put the download on D2L too, if anyone wants it, but should be pretty quick to go find here. Okay, you just unzip them. You install Scenebuilder. I told Scenebuilder to install here. It really doesn't matter where it gets installed. Just know where it is, because we'll need the path later. So like when you go to install Scenebuilder, it says, where do you want to install it? I said, put it in OpenDev, please, just to keep all my Java stuff here. All right, so once we've got those, then we can do the next steps. And there's a couple next steps here. So I'm going to fire up Netbeans here, and to get a JavaFX project working in Netbeans takes a little bit. here of convincing it. But it's doable. So I've got actually some directions that I shamelessly copy paste over and over and over every time. Let me, I think I actually have it here. This one it? I think this one's it. Yep. So here's my directions that I copy paste every time. So we'll get there in a second. Let's let this load up. Yep. And then we'll do it in IntelliJ as well, which is has slightly different steps. But I think IntelliJ works out a little bit easier than Netbeans, but they both work for sure. So I'll show you both. We'll see how it goes. Nope, that's the link from the syllabus to the OpenJFX. So OpenJFX and Scenebuilder, you need both of those. Here, I can chat the download link. All right. So in Netbeans, then, let me close my other project down. We'll start up a new project. Now, this is where it gets a little funny here. We want to go to the JavaFX project type, and notice it's kind of grayed out here. It says this feature is not yet enabled. Click next to activate it. So that's good. That's okay, because we haven't done it yet. We want to go and activate it. So I'm going to click next, and it's going to go download some plugins here. Just thinking about it. It goes and downloads the plugins, and then it says, oh, we can't actually start one of these. And that's okay. So it's going to seem really weird. We just need the plugins installed here. Okay, but we don't need any of that stuff to work here. We should be able to set it up this JavaFX, but it doesn't actually work, which is super weird. So if you go to Tools and Java Platforms, there's no place to set up the OpenJFX. So I don't understand its, I don't know. I get confused by it. So it doesn't actually work, but that's okay. So just start the project there, and then one more time now we'll go to new project. Once they're in color here and they're no longer grayed out, now we'll go back to just a Java with AMP Java application, and we'll do it ourselves. So we need those plugins installed so that Netbeans knows how to work with the JavaFX project, but then we're not going to actually make one because it gets confused. We'll go back to Java with AMP Java application. So we'll do 1500, winter 2022, it's Monday, Wednesday. Call this Hello World JavaFX Netbeans. We'll make a regular project. Okay. Then once we've got all this stuff going here, I'm going to delete my extra comments. We need to go to Tools and Libraries. So this is setting up the library. We just have to do this part one time. We go to Tools and Libraries, and you're going to go to New Library. We'll say this is OpenJFX 17.0.1. It's a class libraries type. That's fine here. And then we go find it in our list here. And we're going to go click on the Add Jar or Folder here. So we're going to add all those jars we downloaded. So I got to go to my OpenDev folder where I put that MNOP. There we go. The JavaFX SDK that we unzipped, wherever we put that. If you put it in OpenDev, it's here. If you put it somewhere else, that's fine. Just go find where you put it. We're going to go to the lib directory, the libraries directory here. And we're going to grab all these jar files. So I click the first one, shift click to the last one. Like you could add them all one at a time, but shift clicking is going to be fastest. You'll say add jar. So it should add all 8 of those jars to this library here. All this is going to let us do is add one thing to our project instead of adding all 8 things individually. It just kind of groups them together here. So a library is just a grouping of jars. Here, we'll say OK. Then we can go through and do all of our steps. Oops, where's my steps here? All right. So we're going to right-click Libraries in the project and add our OpenJFX 17 library. So the library is over here on the left. We're going to add library. We're going to go find the OpenJFX 17 that we just created. I already have one. If you don't call it 0.0.1, it's fine. Either are perfectly fine to add here. We'll add it to the project. Then I'm going to right-click the project and go to Properties. Oops, hang on. I need this line here. Copy this line. Go to the Run tab and add this line to the VM options. So copy that line, right-click the project, go to Properties, go to the Run tab. In this VM options box, we're going to paste that in. So it's going to tell the Java virtual machine, hey, when you start, please load up JavaFX controls and JavaFX Fxml stuff for me, please. We'll say OK. And then in the Libraries Run tab, add OpenJFX to the module path. So right-click the project, go to Properties, go to the Library section, go to Run, and then the module path, click the little plus to add the library, add the OpenJFX 17. And then one last check. So last time the Java versions changed between us, making sure our versions are the same. So project, properties, libraries, we've got JDK 17, JFX 17. As long as they're both 17, they should be okay. Like you don't want one to be 16, the other one to be 17. It'll pretty much work, but it gives you all sorts of weird messages if they're not the same. Okay, so that's setting up all of the libraries and modules and things that we need here. Then we're going to go and do a couple other things. So our project here is going to extend application, our class here. We're going to use some inheritance here. We're going to inherit from this application. And it should say, oh, what is it here? We want to import JavaFX.application.application. Don't pick any of the other ones. If it sees the JavaFX one, we're in good shape. It means the library got added successfully. Okay? If it doesn't see the JavaFX, then we didn't add the library successfully. Okay, once we've added that, then it gets all red here and it says, oh wait, we don't implement what we're supposed to do. Right? We have a method that needs to be added, and that's okay. So we'll go back here in our example. The main method needs this call for launch args. So the last thing main should do is launch the program. Say launch given args. That's just going to pass them right on through. Then we also need a start method here. So we can copy paste the start method out. We need a start given a stage, and now we get a bunch of other red light ups, and that's okay. We just need to add some more imports. So I add our import for stage, add our import for parent, add our import for Fxml loader, add the import for scene, and then it should finally stop being all red. Okay? So again, I copy paste this in every time, right? Because I don't remember any of these steps. It's just not worth remembering. We just need to know what the steps are that we can follow them here. So I give a little cheat sheet here, and just follow it along. Now it's set up, almost ready to go. So the next thing we have to do now is add an Fxml file. So right here, it's looking for something called hello.fxml. You're welcome to call it anything you want. You just need to make sure that the name matches whatever we're about to add. So I'm going to right-click my package here, and I'm going to say I want a new. And if you don't have Fxml in your list, that's okay. Just go to Other, and then under the JavaFX, you should have an empty Fxml. That's what we want, an empty Fxml file. I'll say Next. I might as well call it Hello here, make life easy. Now this part's important. You want to definitely check this box. You need to do this step. So check Use Java Controller. It'll make a new Java file for us here called Hello Controller. That's perfect. That's what we want. Don't need cascading style sheets right now. We'll talk more about those later. And now we get a controller class here. This is more Java code. Doesn't look like it does a whole lot, and that's okay. Yeah, we installed Scenebuilder. It's not a plugin. We have to go in a minute. We'll tell Java where it is, or we'll tell Netbeans where it is. And we get a Hello Fxml file. So if you right-click on it, I've got two options because Netbeans knows about my JavaFX. If you don't have Open and Edit here, you want to go to Tools and Options, and go to Java, go to JavaFX, and it says, hey, where is Scenebuilder installed? So you can go to Browse, and you can go tell it where Scenebuilder is installed on your computer. So in mine, I just put it in OpenDev. So I go find my OpenDev folder, and go find the Scenebuilder folder, and say, okay, Scenebuilder is installed right here. It's in Scenebuilder, and tell it okay. If you don't know where it installed it, you just click on Start and type in Scenebuilder. Scenebuilder, there we go. And don't open it. You want to say Open File Location. This is not where it's installed. This is the Start menu. This is the shortcut for it. So I'm going to right-click the shortcut and go to Properties on this one, or Show More Options and then Properties, if you're in Windows 11. This is where it's installed, this folder here. See OpenDev Scenebuilder. So you can see whatever path that's installed in the target here. So if you need to find Scenebuilder, you can go add it in. This controller file, or the Fxml file, I'm going to hit Edit right now to look at it. This doesn't have Java code. It is essentially an XML file. This is just a particular format here. And you can do these things by hand. And the book will take us through editing these things by hand in Chapter 17. Let me find Chapter 17 here real quick. There it is. So they're showing you can add in your own Fxml stuff if you want, right? And they show you, hey, here's how you can go and edit these things by hand and all that fun stuff. I don't like doing that. I'm not a fan of editing any of that by hand because that's a lot of work, right? And you know me. I don't like to do things I don't need to do, like any good developer, any good programmer. We're going to be lazy. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to let Scenebuilder do the work for us. So Scenebuilder is a graphical tool for drag and drop. So I can just right-click and say Open it after I've told it where Scenebuilder is installed, and it's going to launch Scenebuilder and bring up the page. Yeah, the Fxml file. So this right now is the Fxml page here. This essentially, it is an anchor pane. So there's a bunch of stuff going on here. Don't worry too much about it. We mostly use this top left section, use the bottom left section, and we use over on the right. So the anchor pane is where we're going to put all of our stuff right now. That's a nice, easy one to use. So I don't need containers. I want controls. So if you go to controls, you can go and find all of these things here. So I want a label. So labels are for text, for displaying text. So I'm going to drag a label over here. And then I want a button. So I'm going to go find a button. And then you can just drag and drop and put it anywhere you want. And you can kind of move it around. You see you get these red lines. They're like helping you try and align it here. So now that's the center of my window essentially with those red lines. So the red lines don't hurt anything. They're just to help you kind of line things up in nice locations. So I've brought a label and a button over. For my label here, now we get all sorts of cool properties here that will do certain things. You can change the fonts, you can change the size, anything you want to do font related. What I want to do is change the text here. Well, we'll leave it as label. That's okay for right now. So I'm going to shrink the properties window and I'm going to go to the code window, or the code panel. So the code panel is so that we can work with these things in code. So if you want to interact with it in code, which almost all of our things we do, you need to give it this FX ID. So I'm going to just say this is label. So if it has an FX ID, we'll be able to use it in code. And then my button here, I'm going to go to button. I'll give it an FX ID of button, and then an on action. So on action is saying, well, what method should run when we click the button? What should happen? So it needs to be a method name. So it needs to follow all the naming conventions here. So I'm going to say button clicked. So start with lowercase. Every next word gets uppercase letters here. So I gave it an FX ID. I gave it an on action. And then back in properties, I'm going to change the text. I'm going to say click me. Okay, now it doesn't change until you click off of that tab. So until you click somewhere else, it won't change. But now it'll say click me. Now the important piece is make sure you go save. So file save or Control S for save. Now I have a label and I have a click me button. Okay, we can leave Scenebuilder open or we can close it down. Doesn't matter. We can come back to it later if we want. I'm just going to close it down. It opens up pretty quick. And now we see there's stuff here in this XML. In the anchor pane, there's a label. The FX ID is label. The FX ID is button. This is a type of label. This is a type of button. This on action here, we see the button clicked with a pound sign. It's a method here, and it's telling us there's no handler found. That's okay, we'll get to that in a minute. You can see the text. So you can do any of these things in the Fxml file if you want, but I prefer Scenebuilder because it gives us a little graphical tool for it. So the layout X and the layout Y are interesting. The weird thing about layouts here, X and Y locations, is it's not like Mathland. In Mathland, right, your origin is 0, 0 in the center. It doesn't work like that for Fxml. 0, 0 is your top left. So top and left, where like of my window here would be like up there. That would be 0, 0 for my picture. Right? So this is how many pixels down from the top left, and how many pixels, I'm sorry, Y is how many pixels down from the top left, and X is how many pixels to the right it should go. Right, so 0, 0 is your top left, and then X and Y are how far down and how far to the right. So it gets a little funny here, but don't worry too much about it. Now, to make this thing go away, what we're going to do, we're going to right-click in the Fxml file and say Make Controller. Make Controller, yeah, just like the canvas. Yep. So making the controller will go and automatically update this hello controller file, and it'll add all these things that say @fxml. If it says @fxml, it generated it from the Fxml file. So notice it added a method called button clicked for us that does this thing with some action event, and it added a label and added a button. So we can automatically get our controller file updated here based on what was in our Fxml file. Now, graphical user interface applications are very fundamentally different from everything we've done so far. Right? All of the code that we've done so far starts at the top of main and runs to the end. Graphical user interface programs don't do that. Right? The way that graphical user interface applications work is they show you something, and then they just sit and wait. And they have to respond to events from the user. Right? So an event is like, hey, you clicked the button. And then when you click the button, it will go and do something. Other than that, it just sits. And if you've got 7 different buttons, I might have 7 different things that could happen here. And I have no guaranteed order for which way the user is going to click them. Users do funny things. So this is handling the event here. This is the event handler. Right? This is the action event. So what do we want to do? Well, I want to take my label. So label was the label here, and there's a method called setText. There's a ton of methods everywhere, but we just care about setText right now. I'm going to say hello world. So when the button's clicked, I'm going to set the text of the label to hello world. That should be it. Let's give it a run. So it should go through pretty well now. And I see it just says label, and I see click me, and now it says hello world. Now, every time I click it, it's setting the text to hello world, so it's not changing all those other times. No big deal. Notice I have this GUI up here. That's the title here. So in your hello application, you can change the title. If you don't like it to say GUI, you can change it. Yeah, it really makes me want to read Fox and Socks. That's one of my favorite Dr. Seuss books. With the goose who chews blue goo. Do you choose to chew blue goo too, sir? I like that one. All right. So what's happening with Fxml is it has this idea of a theater, essentially. So you have a scene here, and the scene has some particular Fxml something set on it. So for this scene, we put in this Fxml file. That's what's happening in this scene. And then the stage can have a single scene at a time. So you can have multiple scenes set up here. We don't get into changing between scenes. If you take the 2151 course, the next class, we get into changing scenes a little bit more. But your stage can only have a single scene showing at a time, but the scene can be made up of a bunch of Fxml stuff, right? All the different components you want to put on that scene. You can have different actors and different controllers and different objects or different actors and different objects and whatever they're all on that same scene here. But there's only one stage. So the stage is something that's created because we are an application here. It has a stage. So we're just saying, okay, stage, put this scene on it here. And the scene is the thing we just loaded up. So the Fxml loader is pretty cool. It loads and gets all this stuff for us, which is really fun. Well, that's it for Hello World, essentially, in Netbeans. Okay, so I'm going to go commit that one first. GitHub. Let's give it a shot. Let's do 1500, Monday, Wednesday. So here is Hello World in Hello World JavaFX in Netbeans. Okay. Now, IntelliJ is a little bit easier, but it has some other steps that are ever so slightly different. So I'm going to fire up IntelliJ, and we'll go through a Hello World project there. Excuse me. And if you want to use the virtual desktop, the OpenJFX and the Scenebuilder are already downloaded and installed. I think they're version 16, but that's fine. As long as they match the JDK, it's not going to hurt anything. All right, here we go. Oh, and I did get all of the midterms graded along with all the labs. So I've not yet done the projects. Apologize for that. I'll be working on those after I get everyone else caught up here. But hopefully you know how you did on the projects because there was a rubric and you did your self-assessment, right? If you could check the box, you did it, great. You'll probably get the points there. But the midterm is done and then all the labs are done as well. So most of the grades should be up to date now except for the projects. So the official drop date is coming up on the 8th for the course. So that's the end of the week. So I'm going to try and get everything in for you by then. We'll see how well that goes. All right, let me close this one down. I'm going to start a new project, sorry. File new project. All right, so for IntelliJ, we want a JavaFX project. So it has its own project type, and this project type actually works, which was pretty cool. So I'm going to change this here to 1500, winter 2022, Monday, Wednesday, and then we'll change the name of the project here to, this is Hello World FX IntelliJ. Come on, give me that folder. Okay. So we're going to do the JavaFX project here. We'll go next. We don't need any of these dependencies. Don't worry about those. We'll say next. And I'm going to do it in this window. So IntelliJ gives us most of what we need automatically. We don't have to do any of the JavaFX stuff. It automatically puts in the application. It automatically adds launch. It does the scene and the stage sort of stuff for us right here. It's all ready to go. What we do need to change, though, inside of all this stuff here, you'll find the Fxml file in resources here, and your code in the Java section. So this is hello view Fxml. Now the view that it gives us, this we should be able to update with, okay, so let me step back here. So there's a plugin we need. So if you go to File and, isn't it plugins? Tools, plugins? Oh my goodness. I've already downloaded it once. The File and Settings. Yeah, File and Settings, and go to Plugins here. There's a plugin we want, which is JavaFX. Nope, Fxml. You want the Fxml Manager. What the Fxml Manager lets you do is update from controller. Just like we had the Make Controller option in Netbeans, we want this Update Controller option here in IntelliJ. Will make life easier for us. You don't need it necessarily, but it's super helpful to have this. So the Fxml Manager plugin here works out real nice. Okay, so you want to install that plugin. That'll go nice and quick here. But again, the file it gives us here is a VBox. It's not an anchor pane. So it's not really what we want. We haven't really talked about what that does for us yet, but it doesn't do what we want it to do. Okay, so I'm going to right-click and say I want to open this one. Where's my open in Scenebuilder option? It'll launch out this one here in Scenebuilder, and we want to change the VBox here. So the VBox is small by default. So now the more things you add to a VBox, the bigger it'll get. Again, we don't care too much here. So I'm going to just click the VBox and delete it. So yeah, I want to delete. Then I'm going to go find an anchor pane, drag in the anchor pane. So anchor pane is in a container section. Then I can go back to controls, and I can add my button, and I can add my label, and then give the label an FX ID. We'll call that one label. Go to button, give the button a FX ID, button on action, we'll call this button clicked. And then we'll change the text to click me. Probably lowercase me. I don't know what's proper here. Now the one last thing we need to do, you want to come to the document section here, and you're going to shrink down this hierarchy view. I'm going to go to the controller view and pick that controller class back, and say, hey, use this hello controller, please. This one's really important. If you don't do this, you'll run into some trouble here. Okay, then we can go back to hierarchy. Then we'll give it a save, and we can close it out. So now we'll see it's all changed here, and that's okay. And again, it's red and confused here. So we're going to right-click on it. We want to say Update Controller from Fxml. And then our controller here should be happier now. And now we've got... Okay, so we still have to add our imports ourselves. That's okay. So we will add the import for button, add the import here for this. Now, the on button click, this one was the previously existing one. That's why this welcome text isn't there. But we can get rid of that one, don't worry about it. So what we want here is we want label.setText to hello world. Okay. Why isn't it formatting my code? Okay, sure. Thought it would just format. No. Oh my goodness. All right, I don't know. Formatting's not working. That's fine. Tool, code, format. Where's my reformat? Control-Alt-L. That's what I was doing. Control-Alt-L. Oh, I was doing F. Nope, I was doing F. L. Control-Alt-L for formatting. All right, and now we have our controller. Now this controller should look identical to the one that we did in Netbeans. Right, it's doing the same thing. So when we click it, oops, this deprecated thing is wrong. Oh, that's why. That's why. I'm sorry. So this is the on hello button clicked here. We want that to happen in our button clicked method. So button clicked is the one we just added here. This is marked as deprecated because it no longer existed. And that's the one that it was complaining about. There we go. You can just delete that line. There we go. So this is ours here. The other one was no longer there. Right? We didn't have those items. They didn't exist. We can give it a save. And now our hello application. The other thing we need to change here is we don't need to tell it a size. So when we load the scene here, this is optional. You can tell it some sizing here. We're just going to get rid of that size here. So it's going to load the hello view XML file, set it in the scene, set the title. I don't know. I like gooey for some reason. Set the scene and show the stage. Let's give that a try. So let's give it a run. Now I don't have the run option there, but once we build the project, now we should get our run option here, I think. No, still okay. So I can just right-click and run it from here. Run hello application. Oops, there it is. And now we get the label, we get the click me, and now we get hello world. So it's a little faster, I think, in IntelliJ, but still just a few steps here. You need to change the Fxml, the default Fxml around. The VBox is not the best one. That I feel like the anchor pane seems a little easier to work with. Yeah, now we get my run options. Once we've run it once, it figures it out here. Okay, so that's getting it up and running in IntelliJ. So we don't have to do the library steps. You don't even have to actually tell it where the OpenJFX is. The cool thing is it's actually going to go download it itself. This little POM file says, hey, let's go get OpenJFX here. We depend on it, and we'll go and install it for you, which is really neat. It can go and just go download it for you from wherever it needs to, which is one of the cool things with Maven. Excuse me, it does some cool stuff. Yep, that's about it for that one. So I know it's a lot of steps. Netbeans had a bunch of steps, setting up the library, adding it every time. So we don't have to do any of those extra settings here, which is really nice in our IntelliJ project, so it still adds a lot of similar things. I'm trying to remember where to put all of it. Some run options here. I prefer IntelliJ to Netbeans myself. I think it's a little bit nicer, but either one will definitely work. Not, you know, they both get the job done for sure. Where is it? There's a place where it sets some options. I'm trying to remember where. Is it this one? No. It does some of this stuff automatically for us. It's super cool. Yeah, here it is. The project structure. Is that where it is? Modules. Yeah, so it adds all these modules here for us, essentially, coming out of Maven. That's how it can do some of that stuff for us. All these Maven ones, which is really cool. Then I think it adds... Where does it add it? I don't have any problems. I think it's just here in modules. Yeah. So it does a lot of things for us, which is really nice that the whole project thing just works. Apparently in Netbeans, if you install the Oracle official version, some of that stuff works automatically as well instead of the OpenJDK. But again, I'm still officially boycotting the Oracle version for reasons that I don't like what they're doing. So it's a couple extra steps. But I think they said on the virtual machine, let's give it a look real quick, the Horizon VMware client. I don't know if we have the latest one installed or not. Let me look and see. I don't think we've got that latest version. We'll take a quick peek. I don't think the FX project works here either, without doing the extra steps. But everything should be installed here. You should be able to follow the same steps on the virtual machine. Let's try Netbeans. Let's load it up here. Come on, Netbeans. So apparently version 13 loads faster, which, sure, why not? I'll believe it when I see it. We'll do new project. Want Java. We don't have FX here, do we? Front end application. Oh, there is a Fxml. Ooh, I wonder if that one might work. I don't know. We'll look and see. We'll try it out here. JavaFX application. Let's see if this one will load for us. Oh no, the Fxml application. Come on, VMware. Let me click on things, please. There it goes. Yep, okay, so it still won't let us actually create this one here. So I think if you have the actual Oracle version, this one might work and then do a lot of that stuff for you like it did in IntelliJ. Just kind of work behind the scenes. I wonder, now I'm really curious if we can get this one to work. I haven't tried this yet. Let's just try it. Because that might be fun if that works out nice. Let's see what we get here. Because Maven's kind of that magic that made it all work for us in IntelliJ. Maybe. Maybe. We have an app. We have resources. Ooh, they even gives primary and secondary. Look at that. Oh yeah, it does a VBox here. Isn't that fun? Loads the primary Fxml file. Okay. No, it adds the Fxml name. Okay, sure. Why not? setting it, and then can we open this one? That's just a VBox, so that's okay. That should work. Look at that, and a switch to secondary view. If it runs, I'm going to be impressed. Let's see if it actually runs here without setting anything else up. Yeah, see, it's downloading it behind the scenes for us. That's pretty cool. Maybe. Wow, that's a lot of output. Yeah, almost done. So, okay, good. Maybe we got up on breakfast. All right, it loaded. Look at that. And switch to the other view, switch to primary view. Look at that. Switches between views. Super cool. So it should have the controller. Nice. And the secondary controller. Look at that. How fun is that? All right, awesome. So that might work out pretty nice then. We shouldn't have to set most of that stuff then. That one looks pretty fun. Did it add it for us in the run section, I wonder? I didn't even add the view options. Really cool. All right, sweet. So maybe look at that one then. Might save a little bit of time as well. We don't need all of this other stuff, but that's okay. As long as it gets it up and running. We should be able to do a similar thing, changing out the controller and the primary, and go from there. All right, so we should be in pretty good shape. So for the lab then, let me load that up. Whichever method you prefer, I want you to get a Hello World up and running. Right? Any IDE, whichever version here. So we'll set that up as our lab, which is lab. Oops, I forgot to look. What lab are we on? Lab 12. So just any Hello World, click the button, set the text. We'll be in good shape. Lab 12, Java Fxml. Hello World. So for next week, that puts us out to the 11th. 10 a.m. 10 points. Oops, labs. All right, let me set up that lab. And then we do need to talk about the final project in case you want to get started on it. I know it seems like it's going to be quite a while away, but I promise it's going to come up sooner than you think. Okay? Yes, and it's a big project, so definitely want to put the time into it here. Don't leave it for the last minute. Lab 11. Oops, we already have Lab 11? Lab 12, that's why. Lab 12. I can't count, friends. Can't count. Oakland Community College Java template. No tests. Feedback pull requests. Yes, 40% of your grade. So this in lieu of a final exam. Usually, I used to do a final project and a final exam, and finally during the pandemic, they're like, oh, maybe we don't need to do the final exams if you can do a project instead, because we don't have to worry about proctoring and all sorts of that nonsense, and I think tests are stupid anyway. It's not a good measure of if you can do something, which is what we care about, right? Can you do the thing here in programming class? Right? I don't care what you know off the top of your head. It's not worth it. Right? The tests were open book, open notes anyway. So I'd rather you go and do something than answer a bunch of questions that you can just go find online. So please submit the feedback pull request URL, and then create a Java Fxml Hello World application in either Netbeans or IntelliJ. And that's it. That's what we're doing. Did I not put it in the right spot? What did I do? I put it there. What's this one? Untitled. Oh, I must have added one and didn't mean to. Okay, let's get rid of that one then. Delete that one. We don't want untitled. All right, so we got lab 12 here, and then let's add the final project. Final project is due then May 2nd at 10 a.m. when you folks will present it. So this one's 40 points here. So essentially 1 point per % of your final grade. Works out relatively well there. Final project. Please submit the feedback pull request URL and a self-assessment using the rubric. We'll build out a rubric in just a minute. Let me get your final project link. Final project, copy that link. Here we go. Okay. And then pardon me while I go shamelessly copy paste from the other class, as you guys are doing the same one here. I like this final project. I find it entertaining. I guess that's funny, but that's okay. All right, well, I got to grade their midterm still too. It is a bad adventure game. Bad adventure game. No, we did that one. Okay, so if you'd like to work in pairs, you're welcome to do that. Totally open to that. Would recommend it here. I think you'll get a better product at the end if you've worked in pairs. But you know, we're still in the middle of this global pandemic, and that's okay if you opt not to. You'll do the same work, because if you work in pairs, there's additional work of coordination and collaboration and working together that will take extra time versus just doing it by yourself. You don't have to coordinate with anybody. So the same project gets done, whether or not you do it in pairs or you do it yourself. Hey, just let me know, but each person needs to submit individually, but I can set up your repository so you both have access to it. We're going to present on May 2nd, right? That was the 2nd, I think, to show our games at 10 a.m. To show the game to the rest of the class. So you'll play your game, and I'll score it right there based on whether or not it works. It's a pretend adventure game with JavaFX. We're going to make a 2D array or array list of rooms, about 10 by 10 or so. And then at the edges, or if a room is blocked, don't let them travel to it with some navigation buttons. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit, what that might look like. We're going to make a class for room. It stores its location, whether or not it's blocked, and the NPC for that room, and how much gold there is to find. So we can kind of travel around this little like maze here. Our player class then will have hit points, starts with 20 hit points, and he gets stats for strength, dexterity, and intelligence. You also want to track their total gold. Their strength, when you make a new player, should be 3 rolls of a 6-sided die. So a random number 1 to 6, 3 times. Now, I promise you, this is not the same as a random number between 3 and 18. Right? It works out differently if you generate a random number between 1 and 6 and add it up. Right? You're much more likely to get some number towards the middle, right, than you are to get a 3 or an 18. Right? That's just a statistics thing. So don't pick a random number 3 to 18. Generate a random number 1 to 6 3 times. Add them up. Add them up, add them up. So just the sum of 3 rolls here. And then in the room, there's a 1 in 2 chance that you'll encounter an NPC and you have to fight or run away from them. If there's no NPC, or after you've killed it, you can search the room for gold, or you can sleep in the room. Our non-player characters, the monsters we're going to fight, get hit points of 1 through 6. And then if you want to use that same number here, double it for their strength, dexterity, and intelligence. So if you roll a 1 here, get a 1 on your 1 to 6, they have 1 strength, 1 dexterity, 1 intelligence. Sure, go for it. Or if you want to change this up, totally open to this being different here. Whatever you find interesting. And when you search the room, you roll a 20-sided die. So you generate a random number 1 to 20. If you roll less than your intelligence, you find the gold in the room. You can pick some random amount, or when you make your room, pick some random amount of gold here. Great, they find that gold. That adds to their total. We could fight. We roll a 20-sided die. If we get greater than the monster's dexterity, we hit it. They're going to take as much damage as our strength divided by 3 damage. So reduce their hit points by that value. After we attack, if the monster's still alive, means it has more than 0 hit points, it can attack us. The same rules, but in reverse. Except it gets a minimum of 1 damage, because monsters with 1 or 2 strength, which should still deal 1 point of damage to us here. Okay, so if it rolls a 20-sided die greater than our dexterity, it hits us. We get a chance to run away. The monster gets to make an attack if it sees us. So roll a 20-sided die. If it rolls less than its intelligence, it saw us and can attack us. If it doesn't roll less than its intelligence, it didn't see us, and we just sneak off before it ever sees us. You can either go to the previous room, go in a random direction, or let them pick which way to run. Any way you want to implement this is fine with me. Whatever you think is going to work best here. Okay? And then you should be able to sleep. When you sleep, you regain all of your hit points, but there's a 1 in 6 chance an NPC finds us or wanders into that room and gets to attack us. So we'll add the NPC to the room, and now we have to fight that one or run away from it. Okay? And then the game runs forever or until the player dies. Or they just give up and close it, because there's only 10 by 10 rooms or whatever. here. So now a silly sort of adventure game, but with a graphical user interface, you can click buttons. You can say, hey, I want to go up, I want to go down, I want to go left or right or north, south, east, west. I want to fight, I want to search, I want to sleep, I want to, run, whatever those buttons are. So we'll have all the buttons there, and then whether or not the room is blocked, right? We should be turning the buttons on and off. Whether or not we can fight monsters, we should turn buttons on and off. And we'll get into how to do all that later. What we can start building out is classes. Here we know how to write classes. And we'll look at how we would hook them up into our JavaFX Fxml application later. If the player dies, the game ends. Or if you want to come up with some other ending, like, hey, you found the end of the maze, go for it. That could be really fun. My advice is to get the core stuff in and done first, then start adding other interesting features. So let's build a rubric out here real quick. This is the final project. So we're going to get points per piece here, for each functionality here. And then complete. We've got 8 different objectives essentially here. Let me actually just move this tab up top to my other screen. Yeah, so I can see it better. There we go. Okay, so our maze being a 2-dimensional array or array list of type room is 5 points there. The room class itself with all the attributes that are required, 5 points there. The player class, all the attributes, 5 points there. The NPC class. Now, if you think that the player and NPC class are very similar, you're correct. If you'd like to do something there, so they're not entirely separate classes, whether or not that's inheritance or other options here, that's perfectly fine. This doesn't mean they have to be separate classes necessarily, but they need all the correct function. Right, so however you want to make that work, it's totally up to you. If you want them separate, make them separate. If they want to share a class, share them. If they want to have inheritance, go for it. Whatever's going to make sense for you. Those are the classes, so it's sort of like the design idea here of how we're storing all this stuff. And then whether or not you can search a room, whether or not you can sleep in a room. Right, so searching the room, you find the gold when you roll less than your intelligence. When you sleep in the room, a monster might show up and hit you, but you get your hit points back. So you don't get the hit points back if the monster shows up. FYI, I should make that explicit, right? Until you can successfully sleep without getting interrupted, you don't get your hit points back. You can run away from the NPC, and you can fight between player and NPC. So fighting is actually not the trickiest part, but there's a bit that goes into it here. But it's only one of the 8 objectives here. So you're welcome to focus on any of those that you want. And if it doesn't happen at all, right, then, it's totally up to you if you want to take 35% or 35 out of 40 of that. Totally up to you. There's no shame in saying, oh, I don't actually need those extra points. So however you want to decide it there. All right, so we got our final project defined. Again, we'll get into some of those other features and functionality and how we do those things as we go. We've got the rest of the semester to work on JavaFX. So we'll get through the rest of chapter 17 essentially on Wednesday, and then I've got some additional cool things I want to show you, how we work with classes inside of JavaFXML, how we turn buttons on and off, how we do some styling, other sorts of fun stuff there we'll look at as we go. So that should get us through to the end of the semester. So once we finish chapter 17, we'll have one last quiz on chapter 17. The quiz for chapter 11 is out there. Don't forget, by the end of next week. I apologize I hadn't posted that one earlier. So do take that quiz, please, at some point. And we'll have the chapter 17 quiz will be done. In terms of labs, we probably won't do many more. Maybe one more lab we might work on here. When we work on adding classes into JavaFXML, will probably be the last lab that we do. And then we can go from there. All right. So why don't we spend the rest of today getting our Hello World project up and running so that on Wednesday you'll actually be in good shape. Hopefully you have it done by Wednesday. It's not due till next week, but if you get it done before Wednesday, you'll be able to kind of follow along a little bit better and try some of these things out as we go and get started on that final project. Okay? So any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Let me commit this one to GitHub here with IntelliJ. Nope, GitHub. I said IntelliJ, so I typed IntelliJ. I meant GitHub. Yeah, that's Java. If you wanted to meet later today, shoot me a message. Let me know. So here's Hello World, Java fxml and IntelliJ. Commit and push that one. All right, I'm going to go get some more coffee. We'll call it a day. Let me know if you want to meet up. Happy to do some screen sharing. I know it's a bunch of steps to get set up here. IntelliJ was less steps, which is why I'm a fan of that, although it seemed like that Maven project might just work too. So if you prefer Netbeans, take a look at that route, and we'll see how well that one works for you. If you get stuck on anything, reach out, let me know. I'm happy to get you unstuck, and we'll go from there, folks. Okay? All right. Let me see. Let me put on my ending screen here for a second, just to see if there's any friends we could go bother in Twitchland. I don't know if anyone's around. Let's see. Just send it right off for fun. Let's go check out Leos Labs. They're doing some software development here. It might be fun. Labs. All right, cool. Yeah, we'll head over that way, say hi. You folks take care, and I will see you on Wednesday. Take care, everybody.
Birthday breakfast in bed.
Best roommate ever. This is so weird. I just dreamt this.
Dreamt what?
You bringing me breakfast in bed?
That is weird. So what happened?
Well, you ended up giving me all your cinnamon delights because you love me. Aww.
Yeah,